Okay, everyone is out of the waiting room that's here, so whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you very much. Good evening to everyone. Nice to see you again. Welcome to our last class of UTC 4, which means we are actually halfway after today. So, because we must celebrate ourselves, because it's been like running a marathon and we are now halfway, I want each of you to unmute yourself and make a sound to celebrate yourself in your culture. So unmute yourself and make a sound to celebrate yourself.
Hey, yo. Sorry, my phone, how do I say?
I'm not hearing some of you.
Chineke dalu.
I'm not
Thank you. Thank you. Now you can mute yourselves and we can go to our last class. Thank you very much. We celebrate you. You have been very resilient and we are very proud of you. So today we do our final class for UTC 4. I'm going to share the screen. So if you remember last class, we started looking at group counseling. Moses introduced us to the various things we need to do before we put members into a group, the special considerations. We then looked at the various phases of the group. And so today, we want to look at what is called having a group with a leader. So we are calling them leader-centered groups. And after I look at this will be the end of this module. And then Moses will come in and look at module 6 and the final part of a bit of a module 7, which is a small module, which is a section that was for Morekwe. And then we shall be good with UTC 4. So what is a leader-centered group? Basically, we are thinking of a group that focuses, just like the name suggests, on the leader. You know, we can have many types of groups. We have client-centered groups, or what we call leaderless groups. Leaderless groups are groups that basically don't have a leader. But we have leader-centered groups which have a leader as a facilitator. Remember in the last class, we said groups are of many types. We can have different types based on whether a group is static or revolving, which we also said could mean open or closed, whether a group has time limit or it is open in terms of time, and whether a group is content-oriented or process-oriented. Does anybody remember what we said was a content-oriented group or a process-oriented group? Because it is showing up in this slide. Anybody who remembers and would like to remind us? Yes, Alero?
A content-oriented group is formed specifically for a particular issue. We want to address something, and that's why that group is formed, and that's what it's focused on. But a process-oriented group is, we're here, as it takes us, we run through it until we get to the end of whatever the issues are.
Very good. Thank you very much. Ujunwa, you also want to add something?
Yes, I believe she had said that, but in addition, rather, the process-oriented group actually deals more with the interaction. So, of course, from the interaction, some of the issues will now come up, and then you're able to deal with it. So, yeah, I agree with her.
Very good. Thank you very much for reminding us what content and process-oriented groups are. Like you have said it correctly, content-oriented is more of a group where we are teaching something. So we want to learn about a concept, or we want to learn a skill or teach clients a skill. Then so you come prepared with some content that you want to deliver, whether it is a content on helping clients understand what addiction is, for example, helping families understand what codependence is, for example. If you also want to teach a certain skill that you might want to come and teach, whether it is assertiveness, whether it is relapse prevention, those are examples of content that you bring to a content-oriented group. And good examples are psychoeducation groups, where the leader then becomes a teacher, more of a teacher. Process-oriented groups, we said, are actually leader-centered. However, the focus is on the interactions among the members, as opposed to bringing a content with you that you want to cover. So you move with the group and the issues that come up are processed. And you encourage the different members to share in their reflections, their experiences around the issue that comes up from fellow members. So we are saying that in a process group that remains leader-centered, it limits the potential for learning and growth. and it may include one-on-one counseling within the group, and it does not use the full power of the group to support experiential change or to build authentic, supportive interpersonal relationships. Now, what this second type of group is telling us, when you're running a process-oriented group, you need to be careful so that you don't hog or take up all the responsibilities of the group and deny the members an opportunity to take responsibility. Deny the members an opportunity to learn to support each other so that they can also gain from their interpersonal relationships. And that's why it's saying it can limit the potential for learning and growth. It can also fail to use the full power of the group. And remember, we said one of the benefits of group counseling is that the clients benefit from the leader or the counselor, but also from the fellow members. And you remember Moses talking about some of the benefits, which included installation of hope, including feeling a sense of universality, learning interpersonal skills and behavior. So when you have a leader-centered group, you risk having the members not exploit their full potential. That's what that point is talking about. Now, therefore, what should you do as a group facilitator? We want to note that group facilitation is a practice of supporting, and I want you to mark that word. You support a group's process rather than create or direct it. So we must keep in mind, in fact, I always say this, as we start our groups, let us work with this at the back of our mind, that we would like one day this group to run itself. It's the way we say that when you begin a job, a formal employment, you need from the first day of working to remember that you're going to retire. So you start planning for retirement. That's what many retirement organizations tell us, that begin planning for retirement the day you start working. Don't wait to be told you're retiring this year or next year to begin planning for retirement. So in the same way, when we begin working with groups, let's remember we would like to take or shift responsibility and independence to the group as much as possible right from the beginning. And that's why we are being reminded that when we facilitate a group, we're not creating the processes, we are not directing the processes, we are actually supporting. We need to avoid doing for the group what it can do for itself. That's important, and we are given ways that we can do that. For example, when a group member asks a question, rather than be in a hurry to respond to that question, turn the question over to the group. Let another member reflect. By the way, in a process-oriented group, there are no right or wrong. Members are sharing their experiences generally. You validate, you give feedback, you strengthen. Where there is a bit of distortion, you help the members to see things from another perspective. So it's important that you turn the questions over to the group so that other members of the group can share their reflections around the issue that is coming up in the group. You can ask a group member to direct a comment to another group member. Take, for example, a member shares a story of their experience. Maybe it's a family group, of their experience managing their client with substance use disorder. And you can see the other members are full of admiration for the way that mother handled the son. You can actually ask a member to tell the parent or the mother who is sharing what they think about how they behaved. And so the member can actually reinforce, rather than you being the one to do it. It can be a fellow member reinforcing a fellow member in the group. The other important thing is that we shouldn't be afraid of silence in a group. Sometimes, and I want to say this with a lot of caution, depending on our personality types, some of us are comfortable with silence, but others are very uncomfortable with silence. We do better with noises around us. So if we sit in a group and everyone is quiet, even in one-on-one counseling sessions, we sit with a client and they are quiet. Sometimes that silence can intimidate us and prompt us to want to fill the silence by posing questions or putting in material. We're being challenged. We need not be afraid of silence. We need not be the ones to always break the silence. We can sometimes allow that silence to go on because that silence could be a communication. And then let fellow members of the group sometimes be the ones to break the silence. And you can also ask the group to comment on the process that's happening within the group. So if you notice there's a bit of a good example of a process that can be happening. Maybe the group is becoming productive and cohesive. You can ask a member to comment. Maybe on the other hand, the group is stuck and you can see members aren't moving anywhere. You can ask a member to comment or the group to comment on its own process and how they think they are faring. That helps them to also monitor their own process as a group. So in short, what we are saying, don't own the process. In the beginning though, before the members become cohesive, they will rely a lot on you. But as the group becomes cohesive, you will need to relinquish some of your authority and let the group take responsibility. So your direction reduces, their responsibility increases. Just like your child, as your child grows, you support them less, they take over more responsibility. The other thing we need to do is to teach participants to support one another. And you can model support in the early stages. Like I have said, in the early stages, it may not be spontaneous. So much of it you will be doing, and they are learning from you. For example, when you encourage a member who seems hesitant to speak, you're modeling support, and fellow members of the group can also learn to do the same. You can also teach specific skills. And one good skill that we can teach in groups is just the skill of giving each other space to speak. Sometimes you will notice that the members that are more talkative will talk more in a group. The ones that are less talkative may be quiet and watch the scene. So you can actually teach skills of giving turns to each other to speak, and listening and reinforcing. You can also reinforce and affirm participants' support of one another. Now that's to say, if a member of the group affirms another member, supports another member, please notice that and reinforce it. Why? Because that's what you want to happen. You want the members to take responsibility for each other. And finally, don't rush to offer support to a participant in the later stages of a group. So we are saying in the early stages, they will rely more on you. You will be offering quite some support. You will be modeling, but as you move along, you need to relinquish your authority and allow the members to take more and more of your roles, so that at the end of the group or towards the last stages of the group can almost run without you. That should be your goal. Now, the other important thing we want to think about is something called emotional contagion. This is where you find that sometimes members start sharing things in the group that are very emotional, and it looks like the emotional behavior becomes contagious in the group, and suddenly everybody can begin crying. This has happened in groups, and that can be overwhelming for the group members and the group process. So we need to be aware of this as it happens in the group and know how to modulate it. So one of the ways to counter it or to prevent it, you need to protect the individuals, you need to protect boundaries, you need to regulate emotionality. Now, for example, it is not a must that people be coerced to share things that they don't feel comfortable sharing, or things that they feel if they start sharing, they will not be able to control their emotions within that space. So we can actually protect boundaries. We need to guard the right of every member not to be pushed into emotional discussions. That's to say, we need to make it clear that every member has a right to their private emotions and feelings. So if the group pressures a member to disclose information, you need to remind the group, you need to protect the member and remind the group that members should be allowed to only reveal what they feel comfortable about at the levels they feel comfortable about. You will notice in the early stages, members will be revealing very little. They operate at what we call a shallow level of self-revelation. Why? Because they are still testing the waters. So they operate on what we call a cocktail, mode. In a cocktail, people interact at a very shallow level. You know each other very little. You don't go deep into knowing each other. And that is the nature of a group in the early stages. But as the group becomes more and more cohesive, members trust each other more. Now they will feel more able to reveal more about themselves. But you may still find a member who's having difficulty revealing much information. We need not put pressure on them. They might just be not comfortable enough, or the kind of emotion that situation causes may be one that can overwhelm them in a group setting, and they would feel more safe talking about it first in a one-on-one session. So that's important for us to do. We also need to protect boundaries by clarifying that each client is responsible for managing their own feelings in the face of the group's power, and to decide what they want to share or not to share. Now, we need to keep emotionality at a level that enables the work of the group to continue. I remember one student of mine who told me that they were running a group during counseling practicum, and everybody, they were teenagers, and they all started crying. And sometimes it can get very overwhelming. And so we are saying we need to regulate this. And one of the ways, an example is given here. For example, you can say something like, we've been expressing some intense feelings here today. To prevent us from overload, it might be valuable to stop what we are doing and try together to understand what's been happening. and where all these powerful feelings come from. What this statement is doing is that it is now moving away from the emotive part of the participant to the cognitive part of the participant. So you want to shift from emotion to cognition. So when you say, let us stop and begin to think of what it is to try and understand what's happening here, you're now disconnecting the emotions and moving towards the cognition part of the process. And that can be one way of helping the members regulate the emotionality. So we have got an activity here for you to do. It's a small group demonstration. It is supposed to show, rather, to look at the phases of development the group is in. Like I said, remember that a group goes through processes or stages from the early stage to the middle phase to the later phase. So this activity is supposed to help us to look at or to evaluate the phases of development our group is on and look at the session that we want to demonstrate. So you can read more about it in resource page 5.2, and then you can prepare a role play. That is when you're training on a face-to-face, and you can make it exciting for your participants. Now, finally, we want to look at some issues that come in group management. So managing a group is not a walk in the park, like one of us said. It can actually be scary. I actually remember for many years, I dodged looking at groups and working with groups until when I decided to do a course on group counseling. And then I engaged in teaching group counseling to my students. And that's only when I understood the complex process of the group development and why it can be very challenging and overwhelming. So for those of us who feel that group counseling is scary, you're not alone. It is not an abnormal feeling. It is quite normal, but as you increase your knowledge and experience in it, you will get more comfortable. So some of the things that can happen in groups that can be really challenging issues is handling of conflicts. And you might want to look at resource page 5.8 to see some of these. For example, unhealthy interactions. Sometimes you might have members in a group beginning to interact in a way that is not benefiting the group. Some may seem to form some alliances within the group against fellow members or even against the leader. Sometimes you might discover what we call covert conflicts. They are undertones. They are not necessarily coming up in an overt way or in an explicit way. So they are implicit. So you notice that when one member speaks, another member seems to react in a negative way towards that member every time that happens. So you can actually pick some underlying conflicts that may be there between your members. And sometimes it could actually be because of transference, where you find that a group member reminds another member of a significant person in their life that they didn't necessarily get along with. So those are some of the conflicts that may show in a group. Sometimes you may have displaced anger. You remember the whole idea of there's a theory from Sigmund Freud that gives defense mechanisms. Sometimes we displace our negative emotions to safer objects. So I am feeling angry and I want to air out my anger, but I can't air it to my parents or my family or my staff or my bosses, so I displace it to a safer object. Some people would come with anger and displace it on fellow group members, sometimes on the group leader. Now, the other one is managing subgroups. Sometimes members can actually form alliances within a group. So they have cliques within the group. And resource page 5.9 gives you ideas on how you can actually manage these subgroups. For example, if the alliances are underground, are implicit, are covert, you can actually bring them up by talking about them. So you make them overt or you make them explicit so that they can be talked about. The other thing you can do is to reframe what the group is doing. So rather than talk about it in a negative way, you can reframe it and say, I notice, for example, that X and Y and Z, you're rather close to each other. How about if we use that closeness to extend to the rest of the group and strengthen this group? So you're pointing out something that's not positive, but the way you've reframed it, it's not going to be hurting to the members, because if you push it in a negative way, you might actually affect the cohesiveness of the group. And thirdly, you can actually rearrange the group. For example, if certain members love to sit near each other, and when they sit near each other, they distract the others by making some sort of alliance, then you can actually rearrange them. You can even, and one of the ways of rearranging without them thinking you're rearranging is to use little games. For example, you play a ball and you pass the ball, and when a person throws a ball to another person, you can use all those kinds of activities to rearrange people. Sometimes you can say people wearing green color, go to this side. Sometimes you can use random numbers. All these things are ways of rearranging without necessarily introducing ill feelings amongst the members. Now, the other important challenge you will find in groups is disruptive behavior. And resource page 510 gives you examples of how you can respond to this. For example, you'll have clients who are talkative and interrupt. They will interrupt you, they will interrupt fellow members of the group. They will even finish sentences for them or statements for them. They don't give others a chance. You need to work on that. And one of the things you can do is to make them aware, not in a way that is rude. For example, if you said something, how about if you allowed X, to complete, or can we hear what X wanted to say? I mean, you find a way that's calm and that's not negative to correct that behavior. Sometimes you have clients who flee a session. They could flee physically, so they don't show up, but they could also flee in their mind. So they are sitting there, but they seem absent-minded. Sometimes we draw their attention to, we note, for example, you can actually say something like, Moses, I noticed today you're seemingly, quite overwhelmed by what's running through your mind. Now, you have made a point to that client without being offensive, without accusing them. Maybe you can say, would you like to share what's running through your mind? Something like that. Some others will come in late or be simply absent. Then there are those who will be silent. Silence can be a serious communicator of many different things. It can mean I am not comfortable in this group. It can mean I am bored by what you're discussing. It can mean I am preoccupied with certain things that are bothering me. It could mean I am deeply far off by the topic you're discussing. It's pushed me back to some memory that probably I have around the issue. So rather than feel uncomfortable about it or push the client to speak, we can just, respond to it using a reflection. So for example, we can say, I noticed today you're unusually quiet. What's running through your mind? Now, a statement like that helps the client become aware that they were silent, but they also become aware that you have noted and that you appreciate their contribution. So that can actually make them open up. Of course, tuning out is much like what we have said. They are there, but they are disconnected. You can make them aware. And then another one is focusing only on others rather than themselves. This is an interesting characteristic. You have members who sit in a group and all they do, they behave like the teacher who only sees all the students but not themselves. And one of the reasons could be because they are not comfortable people knowing them or opening themselves up to others. So they focus on others and make sure that they're very quick to put things to others, to comment about others, but hardly do they want to internalize it. So sometimes we work with them by asking the client, what are your reflections about what X just said? Yeah, just what went through your mind about what Y said? What would you like to tell Y about what they shared? So by so doing, you are encouraging them to share their reflections about others. So you're getting into themselves, which is what many of them are not able to do. Now there's this exercise that you can do. You have a client, you have a facilitator, you have got the client roles, and you can try and work on this at your own time or when you train this in your different groups. Otherwise, thank you very much. All these are the exercises. We won't be able to do them for now. What we can share on chat, we shall give you a chance. And I want to stop there because I promised Moses that I would give him 5 minutes of my time. So Moses, thank you. Kindly take it up.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Beatrice. We go right away to module 6. Let me share mine. Oh.
Moses?
Yes, I'm
Did we
trying to
lose you?
share.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
So you can share the slide again?
Yeah.
Yes, we have seen it now.
Okay. Okay. Welcome to module 6 of course 4. We're going to continue with psycho-education groups for clients and families. Another very interesting topic. And what are the goals really of these psycho-education groups for clients and families? There are 3 basic goals for this module, and one is to provide a basic understanding of psycho-education and its purpose. I know some of us are familiar with psycho-education, and nevertheless, we still go ahead. Provide an overview of the types of information typically covered in a psycho-education group. And the third one is to provide an understanding of how to provide psycho-education to people who are newly recovering. These are the learning objectives. I will hope that by the end of this module, we'll be able to answer the following. Define and describe psychoeducation and differentiate it from group therapy. Develop topics for both a skills-based group and an information-based group. These are 2 different groups. Generally, we have the skills-based group and then the information-based group. And then the third objective is develop contents for a psychoeducation group. The fourth one is assess your program's psychoeducation services and identify possible improvements. So as we go through this module, just reflect on what you do in your own setting and see where you can find areas of improvement. So why psychoeducation? What is psychoeducation? I want somebody, at least 2 people, to help us define what psychoeducation is, because I'm sure that a lot of us carry a psychoeducation in our own different centers. So can I hear from at least 2 people, just 2 minutes, to share with us what psychoeducation is all about? And Jessica, you have. Yeah.
Fatima has raised her hand.
Oh, great, Fatima. Good to hear from you again.
Yes. Yes. I think psychoeducation is a process whereby information is provided to the client and his family so that they'll be able to understand and also cope with their substance use problem.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Any other person? Can I hear from another participant, please?
Alero has also raised her hand.
Okay, please go ahead, please.
Okay, psychoeducation is basically providing education about what is happening to the client all through the process, because sometimes they have limited information. They just think they can take in drugs. We let them know, okay, this is what the drug does to you. This is how it does this. This is the effect. So it's all the education we provide to the client about their drug use, the consequences, and how it affects their relationships and all of that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's great. Okay, let's go on and see what the definition says. Definition of psychoeducation. Psychoeducational groups educate clients about substance abuse and related behavior and consequences. This type of group presents structured group-specific content, often taught using videotapes, audio cassette, or lectures. Frequently, an experienced group leader will facilitate discussions of the material. So you see, it covers a lot. Educate clients about substance abuse and related behaviors. The behaviors that come as a result of their substance abuse behavior. And then the consequences, of the substance use. And the group also is structure. The education is structured, or the information provided is structured. And there's also group-specific content. You give the information to the group, it's specific to the group, and then it's often taught by using several media. It can be video text, audio cassette, or even didactic lectures. Frequently, an experienced group leader will facilitate discussions of the material. So it's not just everyone that jumps into psycho education. You need to get an experienced person, to be able to facilitate the psycho education group. In my setting, we divide the topic amongst the staff, but they must have worked with us for some time and also would have undergone the UTC and even the UPC course before we assign them, different topics, and we ensure that the topic assigned to them are topics that they are comfortable with and they can actually facilitate. So sometimes we have somebody in charge of psycho education, but when they draft their topics and assign them, sometimes I say, bring them to me, let me take a look at the topics because I know my staff very well, I know their capabilities, and sometimes I say, no, give this to so and so and take this one. So it's very important that we have somebody who is experienced to be able to facilitate. Otherwise, the client may not learn much, and they may doubt whoever is facilitating, and it's also possible that the facilitator may not actually meet their needs. So you need somebody who is experienced. Psychoeducation and group therapy, what are the similarities? Yeah, group of clients with similar characteristics. There are clients that have similar characteristics. We're talking about psychoeducation and group therapy. They have a common goal to help the client, to recover. Focus on substance use and recovery. And then facilitated by a leader. And the leader must be somebody who's conversant with therapy and what substance use disorders, are all about, and also the various substances that are used and how a treatment, is carried out. So the leader must be somebody who is competent enough to lead, and then encourages interaction among class. So there is a relationship here, because it's a dynamic setting. There's interaction. So both actually encourage interaction. But what are the differences? There are some differences, because focus on education, not therapy. Psychoeducation is not therapy because it doesn't go in depth into treating clients' problems, but it gives them information, additional knowledge that they can use to supplement whatever they learn in therapy. And this knowledge also helps them to actually go through therapy sessions without much difficulty. And some questions that they might not even ask during therapy sessions, they might be able to ask them during psycho-educational sessions. So they go there with some knowledge, and it helps the therapeutic relationship between the counselor and the client. And emphasis on information, not feelings. No. And emphasis on skill building. Psychoeducation can give information, can help you to build some skills, but doesn't really target behavior change. It only gives the information that will help them, during counseling sessions, to be able to modify their behavior in the desired direction. So these are some differences. Some brief exercise here. Value of psychoeducation. Why should we offer psychoeducation to our clients? How can it benefit them? What are possible outcomes for clients and family members? So I'm giving up to 3 minutes for this, and I want responses from participants. Why should we offer psychoeducation to our clients? How can it benefit them? What are possible outcomes for clients and family? I know a lot of us are experienced and we're working in this field, so let's share from your own experience what to do in your settings. Jessica, please help me facilitate this.
Sure. Fatima has her hand raised.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yes. We offer psychoeducation to our clients because sometimes some clients and their families don't even know the consequences of indulging in these substances. Sometimes the families are the problem of the clients. Sometimes the client don't even know that they have problem. So psychoeducation will give information and educate the client about the problem the drug or the substance will bring to him and the family. And also psychoeducation benefits the client because it helps the client to know that there is a problem and that he himself needs to solve this problem. And then the possible outcome for clients and families is that it further make the families to know what the client is going through so that they will be able to empathize with him. It also makes the client to understand his family better too, so that he will not be blaming the family for what they have been doing to him. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Any other person, please?
I also see Samuel's hand raised.
Okay, yes. Sam, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Okay, when we do psychoeducation, what it does for the client is that it actually clarifies misconceptions for the client. It gives the correct and accurate information that the client requires that will help him in his own recovery. And then the benefit is that it's likely going to move him to the to another higher stage of change than he is. Okay, and then for the families, actually, psychoeducation helps the client to be the family and the client to be at least in the same platform or the same level, so that they can be able to interact and support the client appropriately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Move on. Psychoeducation is actually important because it helps to build knowledge and also skills that are needed, for recovery.
My hand is up. Okay.
Okay. If you want to share a minute, you can share for a minute. Please go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Most of the time, before the patients come to us, they've already gone through a lot of other levels of treatment. The traditional, the churches, a lot of even the people who don't know anything about mental health or substance use. And each place they go, they have information they've taken with them. So part of the reasons for the psychoeducation is to educate these people and try to give them the facts as they are relating to the illness, especially the substance use. So that by the time they are leaving, or by the time the patient is even admitted, they are now have full knowledge and that this is what the person is going through. And not just that someone told us that it was something that's happened to him or it was anything they could have ascribed to the cause of it. So that's why psychoeducation is important for us when they come, especially to the family, so that by the time they're going out, they go with alternative theory, alternative knowledge, even to the people who are not in the hospital. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Truly, it helps them to understand substance use disorder as addiction as a disease process. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Okay, let's move on. Types of groups. You can have clients only. Sometimes you have family only, family and clients, and also community settings. You can do it with, for instance, schools. You can do it with religious groups, or you can do it with women groups in the community, or an adolescent group in the community. So the groups vary, and so is the message. You tailor it, appropriately to the group you are addressing. skills-based groups. There are basically two, I would say, information-based and then also skills-based groups. So for the skills-based group, what do? They teach how and not what, how to do it. Examples of skills based groups are practice are one, problem solving. Most times the class look at they think straight. They don't think laterally. So when they have a problem, they think there's only one way of solving the problem. But when you teach them problem solving skills, it actually enhances their knowledge and the skills that they need to face problems during recovery and to remain steady in the journey of recovery. And then techniques for managing cravings. Most times they don't have techniques. They would have tried and failed, but they are ignorant of techniques that they can use to manage cravings because the cravings can be overwhelming. And most times they keep complaining to you that truly sometimes they are overwhelmed by the cravings. So how do they manage them? You can teach them skills on how to manage cravings and also refusing drug offers and other relapse prevention strategies. So these can be topics that you present and then teach them how to do that during psycho-education session. So let's move on. Information-based groups for clients or families. Yeah, for information, it can either be for the clients or the families, and they address knowledge, not skills. Remember, we say this is not therapy yet, it's just to add knowledge, supplement whatever they have, and to build on that. The more didactic than skills-based, and more specific, you can just talk of maybe withdrawal from drugs. You can also talk about how or the brain mechanism that observe cravings, whatever it is, can just be specific. So less interaction in group and no discussion of personal issues. When you are given information, there's limited interaction, and also you don't delve into personal issues in information-based groups. Group leader qualifications. Is it everyone that can just facilitate psycho-education session? No. As I said in my own setting, we don't just allow anyone, to do psycho-education because sometimes they can give information that conflicts with what you are trying to do because they're not yet experienced and they don't have adequate knowledge. So you must have worked, you must have completed your UTC course before you are, allowed to give psycho-education. And the topics, as I said, we'll try to ensure that we match them, with whoever is facilitating the psycho-education. So there must be investment in providing psycho-education. You invest in it, you just stumble on it. And must demonstrate concern for clients. And when you demonstrate concern for clients and you are passionate about your work and the recovery of clients, you find that they are happy, their needs are met, and they enjoy and learn more from the psycho-education session. Experience in leading psycho-educational groups. Yes, with time, people become experienced. We also help those who are not yet experienced to sit in the psycho-education classes, and then they also learn how to facilitate such groups. Familiarity with agencies treatment programs. Whoever is given psycho-education should be familiar with your own treatment program so that they don't give information that's contrary to what you are doing there. But sometimes people just come and tell them, the client, just what to do. You just have to pray. You just have faith. That's all. No, it's not enough. And then experience with clients and families. Facilitators must have some experience in dealing with clients and their families so that you don't just give information that will bring more problems to the family or strain the relationship between the client and the family the more. So these are group leader qualifications. And if you have not been doing that, maybe you have to take a look again. Who does what? Who gives psycho education in your own setting? But there are general tasks. The group leader has this general task: help identify appropriate group members, because you have to be able to get the right members for the psycho education group. You don't just mix people and tell them things that are irrelevant to them. No, but you select because you know it's specific to the group. So give the information that they need as a group. So you have to select and identify appropriate group members, recruit them, adjust the group approach, develop a curriculum and schedule. It is nice when they know that they are going to discuss different topics, and then they have the facilitators. They might get to see the schedule, in advance, and they're looking forward to it, and they're also preparing because they might have some questions, and they want to clarify their misconceptions, as Sam said earlier on. So prepare visual aids, because not everybody is an auditory learner like some of us. So visual aids to aid the learning process, and select reference materials and handouts. We try to give them reference materials and handouts in our setting, but sometimes we ask them to go and also search for some information on the net and come and let us discuss based on our knowledge and what we do. And deliver training. You must be able to deliver training and provide after session support as needed. Most times, some of them will have questions or they have problems that they want to discuss that and not discuss during the psycho education session. But you have to wait behind and allow them to talk to you or clarify their doubts and be able to tell them or meet their need. So that support is necessary. You don't rush and leave them there after the session because they might need your help. Keep up to date regarding relevant knowledge. If you don't keep up to date, then you may land in trouble because you may have all sorts of people, some of them are professionals. Like in our setting, we have medical doctors, we have pharmacists, we have academies, and all sorts of people. So if you're not knowledgeable, you run into trouble. Sometimes they see some of the staff and they tend to underrate them. What can this one actually give? And they want to challenge you during psycho education because some of them feel they know too much and they've been to so many places and they are armed with so much knowledge just to demolish whatever you are trying to give. So if you must prove your methods, show that you are competent and you know precisely what you're doing. That will help you, to earn their trust. And will have confidence in what you're saying. And be flexible. Don't be too rigid with them. What happens in each session? Provide a welcoming atmosphere. Let them feel relaxed. Let them feel, let them feel happy being in the group and then be expectant that they are going to learn something. Let them not come quarreling or they shouldn't be tense. So let the atmosphere be a welcoming one and encourage questions and comments. Because if they ask questions, they'll be able to clarify some of the misconceptions. And then some of them are actually very knowledgeable. They may even be more knowledgeable in particular aspect of the topic than the facilitator. They allow them to share. And some of them really have been to several places in different continents of the world because of this drug use. So they have something actually to share or to contribute. Allow them. And remain in the room afterward. Talk to people with problems or who have concerns. But make sure that you facilitate well and you keep to the norms and don't let anyone take away the group from you. Considering learning styles, the age, yes. Sometimes some of them are just adolescents who are still studying, some are graduates with a lot of experience, some are elderly. So you have to, considering the learning style is not just didactic, you have to use visual aids, you can use discussion, and so many other things. Let them comment, let them, you can use audiovisual aids, and some of them too can help clarify one thing or the other, or share from their own experience about it. So it's not just like giving a lecture and going, no. So consider the different learning styles, because you have different groups, and some people are more experienced and they can share from their experience. And then this stage of treatment or recovery. If a patient is not yet, for instance, coming and is withdrawal, restless, or is psychotic, such people you cannot just get them there because they will disrupt the session. But if they are stable enough and they can join the group and learn, well, there are advantages of that, but you can mix them in different stages too, because they will learn from those who are further than them, and they may be able to reinforce whatever you are teaching, and those who are behind are able to learn from them. So it can be didactic versus interactive, or make it more interactive. It's better if you do it more. If it's interactive, then the other ones will be able to learn better. Visual versus auditory. Mix them so that those who are visual learners will learn, and those who are auditory learners will also learn, so that nobody is left out. And then tailoring instruction. Let there be variety. Let there be visual aids, as you said. If you can do role plays, why not? And also videos. You can watch and then you discuss afterwards. Maybe you can give the lecture and then after the video and then ask questions. Or after the video, depending on how you want it. So it helps, and so that everyone learns from it. Some people will learn, they're visual learners, but some are both. And some people learn only through things like role play. So try to meet everyone's need if you can. And sometimes you find that the clients are also very good at doing role play. And if you get good ones, they can even do the role play for you, or you as a facilitator can get one or two staff and then do the role play. It sticks better, really, and it helps them to understand what you're trying to pass across. General training guidelines for group leader. Periodically review information. You cannot use information 10 years ago and continue with that information, because information is so free and there's so much knowledge out there. You have to update your knowledge so that you actually keep abreast of current happenings in the field. Some of them will go on the net and then they will do so many things and come and challenge you, and you should be able to respond to their questions. Use common language so that everyone understands. Break information down. Don't go too academic, because some of them might not be academicians, and if you go that way, they'll just switch off their minds and they will not be with you. So break it down, bring it to their level, and present it as in a and concise manner, just like this UTC training. So concise, everything is to learn. So you should also be able to break down the information that way, and then check for understanding. You can ask them to tell you what they have learned and to share on what they're thinking about the topic, and check to be sure that they understand and they have not misconstrued anything you are trying to teach them. This is a way of getting feedback, and it's necessary, as a leader, to be sure that the time is well spent. Cognitive deficits. Because in recovery, you may have cognitive deficits, may come in many ways. First of all, perhaps because of the prolonged or chronic use of drug or the substance they've been taking. And then sometimes they may have co-occurring disorders. Some of them might be depressed, the memory is bad. Some of them might even have some suffer from disease like schizophrenia. And sometimes the side effects of even the medication used to treat some of those co-occurring disorders can actually interfere with their cognition. So you have to understand this, and particular effect on short-term memory and attention span. Make sure that you don't take too much time when you are doing a psychoeducation, because they might not be able to concentrate. Some of them might even be drowsy as a result of side effects of drugs. Or, those who are on opioids tend to have some memory impairment too, because of the chronic use of the drug. And some of them also might come with symptoms of mild depression. And some of them would have been depending on alcohol for a long time, and they're having some cognitive challenges already. So, and some of them can have anxiety problems with short attention span, or even depression. And some of that can be also the effect of the drug, and also another co-occurring disorder. So you have to be sure that you are able to detect this and meet the needs, and don't stay unnecessarily long, don't prolong the time. Otherwise, they will live there without really getting anything. But you can help by repeating information. In this course, we are trying to give assignment, and most of the things we do are repetition. It's just to help us to actually understand and to be able to process it in our short-term memory and store it in our long-term memory for retrieval. So that's why the repetition, because the more you repeat something, the more you learn better, and the more it's, you pay attention to it, and then it's retained, and it's easier for you to recall when you keep repeating it. You learn, you go and do assignments, you teach somebody, you finally become more conversant with it, and it's easier for you to recall. So that is the essence of repetition. We say, oh, but I've done it, why are they repeating it again? No, it has a meaning. Avoid overt triggers. This is critical. No drug images. Because if you have drug images in the session, it may take their attention away. They may begin to crave for the drug, and they'll become so restless because they're expecting to get the drug, and then they begin to have expectation and experience the effects of the drug already. So that can take their mind away, and then every paraphernalia or images of drug use. Keep them away so that they are able to concentrate on the task at hand. And the images of substance use or drinking, please keep them away so that you can get the attention and concentrate on the material at hand. So try to avoid triggers. Countering trigger, what you do, stay after the group, have one member escort another home, or call a family member. Yes, if you think they are already craving and they might go out looking for it, what do? These are the things you can do. You stay after the group, or have one member escort another home. That will help them to go home safely instead of diverting, to look for substance, or call a family member, to help them out. Thank you. So what are the potential topics that you can have in psychoeducation? Information about specific substances, yes. Relapse prevention, finding support, avoiding triggers, and others. So what are other topics that you can think of, or maybe you have covered in your own setting? Please, I want maybe 2 minutes for this. I want to hear other potential topics from the participants. What you think should be included, considering the different stages, of recovery, and also what you have done in your own setting. So please, can we share? We have said relapse prevention, finding sports, avoiding triggers. What other topics can we include? Yes, Jessica, please help me facilitate. Yeah.
Yes, Grace has her hand raised.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Yes, Grace,
Mine
go
is a
ahead.
question. Mine is a question. Are you hearing me?
Yeah,
I want
okay,
to.
we'll come to the questions later. Let's contribute first. What other topics? I'll give you questions, but let's contribute to other potential topics which should be included.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, is anyone willing to
Fatima put something in the chat. She says withdrawal symptoms, classification of drugs.
Okay, that's good. Withdrawal symptom. What else?
And then I see that. Oh,
Yes, any other, please?
right. I see Eugene has his hand raised.
Yeah,
I mean,
go ahead.
some of the things to avoid are topics that kind of brings arguments like religion, politics, and sometimes sports. So some of these things should be avoided.
Okay, thank you. What other topics should be included or can be included in some education groups? One more person, please.
Legal implications.
Pardon?
The legal implications of drugs or the substance.
Okay.
Before you wash it and put it
Any other?
Yes, what of anger management?
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Other topics that you can include as follows. You can actually talk about sexuality or
Yes, I
sexual
wanted
beliefs.
to say emotional life management.
Okay, good. You can talk about mood and emotion. Yes, how to manage mood and emotion. Very good. You can talk about effects of substances, dealing with loss and trauma. You can
Social
talk
skill.
about yes, okay, thank you. Self-concept, disease concept and management, or even codependency. You know, you can talk about drugs in psychoeducation. Thank you. So you can take as of as many topics as possible that are relevant to your own setting and to the group you are taking, and then you can include. Sometimes they can even suggest the topics for you, and then if they're relevant, then you add them and give them a psychoeducation or such. So small group exercise, psychoeducation topics. What are the main points you should cover under your assigned topic? Well, we are going to do that as an exercise. I'll post it on the assignment. So because of time constraint, we're not going to do this exercise now. Stages of treatment. One, we have treatment engagement, working to motivate clients to get involved in treatment. Yes. Then we have early recovery, dealing with special issues such as lingering physical effects and cravings. These are usually very big problems. When clients come, they say, okay, I'm coming in for treatment, I'm ready to go, but after a week, you have so many problems, complaints, and most of them are, are either physical effects of the drugs as they're withdrawing, or the cravings are so intense and they want to cut short the treatment, or they want to terminate it. You have to actually use your motivational skills to motivate them, to continue or to stay in treatment. So you need to know how to engage them. You need how to handle this problem that come in early recovery, and then maintenance and continued care. Help clients maintain abstinence and prevent relapse. These are very, very important because if you don't think of these various stages, you might miss out on one or two things. Stage of treatment. This is another exercise. Not all psychoeducation topics you think will be appropriate for your assigned stage of treatment. I'm going to post this one too on your assignment so that, and I'll give you the instructions on how to go about them. You use your resource page, and they're there, to answer them. Reflective exercise. Did anything you learned today surprise you? What will you be most likely to use in your practice? Maybe there's something new you've learned here and you want to apply it when you go back to your practice. And what burning questions do you still have about working with groups? So these are questions for you to reflect on. We'll move on. After that, I'll give you maybe a few minutes to be able to ask questions. But reflect on this. If you learn anything, please put it down on your journal. And whatever you're planning to do or to add to your practice, put it down in black and white. And then if you have other burning questions, keep them to the end. We'll go to family groups. When we talk about family, it includes a wide range of people. We don't just mean a nuclear family or talk about extended family, but it can include things like romantic partners, sponsors, and close friends, or other significant others. So it's a wide range of people. Can we establish relationships? Yes. And if there are some strain in the relationship, when you have family groups, you can help to establish those relationships during family groups, family sessions. And then can help family support recovery. They are just like, even though there are some that are actually specific for families that we'll get to know later, and help members realize that their situation is not unique. Because most times parents or families think that they are the only ones passing through this. Sometimes they feel guilty, sometimes they are ashamed, and some will tell me, doctor, we are actually hiding. We are ashamed that it's our own child, our own ward that is behaving this way. We don't know where he got it, where he landed from, but we're truly ashamed and we're actually hiding. We don't know where we have gotten it wrong. So families have issues, but when you have family groups, it helps to resolve all this. And it's very important that when you are treating clients, you must involve the family. You must involve the family if you are to get good results. And we do that always in our own setting. When the client is stable and is into therapy and yes, like maintenance and understands what has happened, we call the family. We may have client and family groups together, and we do that maybe for 2 or 3 sessions before the client is discharged, and that has actually helped our clients. So what are the goals? There are general goals here: learning, and they're working together, and understanding relapse, and improving relationships. So let them learn new information about substance use, help them, with the misconceptions, and then work together with them to support the client in recovery and understanding what that relapse may come, but that doesn't mean that they should give up. They should still be hopeful and encourage and support, the client, because they are going to be some of the, recovery capital of the client. So we should help and also to try to improve relationship with the clients and not just making critical comments that will frustrate, and discourage the clients in his own journey to recovery. Or then there are specific goals. Present accurate information. Accurate information. Discuss how recovery affects families. Sure, if they have a plan, that will actually affect the family dynamics. So they have to get them to a point where they open up and let them know that this behavior of their own child or ward has actually affected the relationship in the family in one way or the other. And then you can discuss how this comes about in different times, or different ways, either positively or negatively, but most times negative way actually affected families. And enable family to discuss recovery and correct any misunderstandings about substances or recovery. Promote self-care, convey dignity and respect. So these are specific things that you need to do, with families. Topic specific to family groups, SUDs and families. Putting the family back together, rebuilding trust. Most times the client will tell you, doctor, you're the only one that trusts me. My family members don't trust me at all. Whatever I say, they say he is an addict. Nothing will come from me. All they see is an addict, and I will never change. I'm just like that. And even when I was struggling to change, they discourage me. They don't trust me at all, and that affects me and discourages me. So help them to be trust. Then the role that they're supposed to play, and help families, in recovery, and then how to live with an SUD and communication traps. There can be traps in the communication that can worsen and mar the progress, have achieved in the recovery. So there are also discussions here, large group, a discussion. What are your programs doing? Do you offer psychoeducation? What types? Is there anything you want to change? Can anybody, I want one or two people to make comments here, please. Do you offer psychoeducation? Tell us what types you offer. And is there anything you want to change when you go back to your own setting? Please, can I hear from participants? At least 2 minutes for that. We'll finish on time. Does anyone want to share with us?
I
Jessica,
see
please.
Rania's hand raised.
Okay, please, Rania, thank you.
Hi, dear colleagues. Hi, Dr. Moses.
Yeah, thank you, Rania.
In Cairo University, we have a family group therapy every Saturday where we discuss. First thing, we train them on the skill of expressing their feelings, how they have suffered with the presence of a substance-dependent patient in the house. Then we notice to them the codependency, the codependent behaviors, and the enabling behaviors. Then we have psychoeducation about the normal healthy communication, how to self-assert, and how to avoid all the enabling behaviors. Then sometimes it raises another problems raised between other sons, other daughters, between the father and the mother, between sexual troubles between them, marital troubles. So the more the group grows, the more we enter into the changing the dynamics in between the family members away of the substance dependent patients. So we begin these dynamics passing by psychoeducation, then it turned into a dynamic group, self-changing group.
Okay. Oh, thanks very much indeed, Arania, for sharing your experience from Cairo, Egypt. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. We'll go to module 7 now. Sorry, let me share the next module quickly. It's a very short one, so we should be through with it. Moment. Okay, I hope you can see the slide now. Module 7, teaching clients new skills. Teaching them skills. Skills training. We talked about information, and now we're talking about skills. Systematically teaches clients specific skills. And the skills training is usually purposeful, it's orderly, step-by-step procedure, something like intentionality here. You're not just sitting down to just give them information, no, but you want them to actually be able to acquire some skills that they can use to help them not only in the recovery process or in their interaction with other clients, but in life generally. That can help them to be resilient and to help them to remain steady in their journey to recovery. Then coaches clients to manage their recovery. Learning new skills is critical to foster clients' ability to achieve and maintain recovery. Sometimes they learn these skills, and when they leave, honestly, it helps them when they encounter problems, out there, and they're able to resist. And when sometimes they come for, for follow up or check up, and then they discuss things with you and how the skills they acquired during their own treatment has helped them really to stay afloat and not to succumb to all the temptations, out there. And learning skills can help clients throughout their lives. Throughout their lives, they're able to implement them and also able to help others. Particularly when it comes to, in fact, social skills. Some of them have lost those social skills, and that has been a problem for them. And they keep getting a lot of um, antagonism and from the public because of their own way of behaving, but they never knew that they lacked those social skills. So they learn them in the treatment program, and then they get to understand themselves. They know how to manage their anger. They know how to solve, problems, and they know how to communicate in a better way, and also to listen. That really helps them to be better people. So, learning objectives. By the end, you should be able to list and describe at least 5 guidelines for effective skills training, describe and demonstrate teaching refusal skills, and then describe and demonstrate teaching time management, and also describe and demonstrate teaching thought stopping techniques, describe and demonstrate teaching problem solving techniques. Small group, here you find there's resource page 7.1 principles and guidelines for effective skills training. You will read them, and as part of your own assignment, you go over them. And I tell you, read these resource pages. There's so much information, in there, and that will help you to consolidate on what you have learned, and especially when it's your own turn to actually teach or present to other people. The resource pages will help you to arm yourself to be able to answer a lot of questions. So take time to read the resource pages. They are very rich. So that you do as assignment. Well, I think this is the end of what we're trying to do. Principles and guidelines for effective skills training. You read your group assigned topics. This you also do it. I'll post it on the assignment and give you the guideline. You can do that. And small group demonstration skills. Introduce your skill topic. What is important that you find it in the resource page. Principles and guidelines for effective skills training. Read them. You can include parts or more than one session with a client, and the instruction will be there for you, to carry the assignment. But I urge you to actually go and read your resource page and try doing the assessment, because that will help you to consolidate. So all these are assignments. So I think we have come to the end of this course, and I think I welcome questions at this time. We still have some minutes for contribution from experienced colleagues. I know a lot of us are knowledgeable. We have been working this field for years. I want you to share with us, or maybe to make contributions on what we have said so far. And if there are questions, you can also ask. And the questions are not only directed to the presenters. Some people are knowledgeable. If you want to answer the questions, please answer the questions, maybe, and let us learn from your own experience. But if you want to direct them to us, then we can answer them, no problem. But I give this time for questions and contributions from colleagues.
Right. I see Grace's hand raised if she wants to unmute herself.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. My question is concerning the dots. In course of group counseling, you talked about not exposing those paraphernalias and those drugs. Assuming I want to have a kind of psychoeducation for community women, is it appropriate for me to go with some of those paraphernalia to really show them?
You want to psychoeducation on what? Sorry, please.
If I want to have psychoeducation for maybe rural women, because of maybe the kind of devastating effect of cannabis around the environment, and if you are saying that it can be a trigger, is it appropriate for me to take some of those things or show them some? Because I believe that if I should showcase some of those things, apart from maybe role playing, it will send the message across to them so that when they see some of these signs around their neighborhood or maybe some of their children, it can also help them to see how they can talk to them for prevention, counseling, and all the rest. Is it necessary for us to really go with those, or we shouldn't at all? Or it's just only in group counseling setting that we should not go with all those paraphernalia not to trigger the clients?
No, if the group, you know, is to a specific group. If you are talking to clients, it may be the community and their users. Remember, you have not treated them yet. I mean, they are still using. I tell you, if you take it there, they become very restless. They will start craving, and their attention will not be there anymore. So the best thing, if you talk about marijuana, for instance, they know what it is because they've been taking it. So you don't have to show the images that will trigger, some cravings and other untoward behaviors there. It's not necessary. They know it. Except if you are talking to people who are not users.
Clients. The psychoeducation is not for the clients anyway. It's for the parents, as in mothers, to sensitize them in the environment.
Yeah, okay. If you are talking to mothers who are not using and you are sure the clients are not there, then it's a different thing. But maybe just sensitize them. But if there are clients who are using, experience, and the research has shown that it's not wise, it's not good taking those things there, because you will only trigger some cravings, and then they will now begin their drug seeking behavior, and they will not pay attention to what they're doing. They understand it, they know it, maybe more than you do because you don't do it. But if you're talking to people who are not using, it's a different ballgame. Maybe let's hear from Beaches. Beaches loaded, and some other people.
Really here,
Anybody
Moses?
can share. Yes.
I'm here, Moses. Yes, indeed. It's important for us to realize that we are emphasizing evidence-based practices. And like you have put it correctly, evidence has actually demonstrated that taking those paraphernalia with you to presentations does not necessarily add value. In fact, the other thing that has been shown not to be valuable is when we are doing prevention campaigns, we take people in recovery, and then they talk about their drug use lives in a very sensational way. It has been found that sensationalizing can even attract young people to starting to use the substances. So, like Moses has said, evidence has it that those methods we used to use do not necessarily work. So thank you.
Thank you, Bitu. Any other contribution or question? Any other contribution?
I would like to
Hello,
add
Mrs.
this.
Yeah, please go on.
Yeah, my hand is up. So can I want to, yes, I just want to, as it were, to emphasize this, the importance of skills training, especially with respect to recovery, relapse prevention, and maintenance of the individual post treatment. Because a good number of people get into substance use because of difficulties. Because of difficulties either in social skill or other issues around them. So this social skill training will enhance their capacity to solve personal issues when those issues arise. I'll give you an example. I know a client I've worked with who used to engage in substance use whenever he's provoked. So if he's provoked, he will look for it, and then that would, serve him for that moment. So in course of our engagement, we had to look at how else can he deal with provocation other than resorting to substance use. Just an example. So it is very, very important. Skill training is very, very important in clients' recovery plan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, any other before I hand over to Jessica?
We also have Eugene.
Okay, Eugene, please go ahead. Let's hear the Ghana experience.
Yes, let me talk about one controversial thing, but it happens. So in Ghana, for instance, when people are recovering from alcohol, they are advised to stop taking communion wine because we have evidence that one of our, he's now an educator and a counselor. He was in recovery, and he went to communion wine, and he said that as soon as he left the church, he felt like he must necessarily go for some alcohol. There was one instance that a counselor described a chilled beer with a can of worms and all that, hoping that it will make the person in recovery shy away from alcohol. But he said that just that description of a chilled beer made him go out and take alcohol. And my last point is about, the last speaker. Let's realize that addiction is a disease, and one of their defense mechanisms is rationalization. So when a person says that anytime I get angry is when I take a drug. So they are trying to get you to accept something impossible, because there's no way anybody can prevent anybody from getting angry again. We are all going to get angry again. So we should learn to manage the anger. I have the patient who said that anytime I see my partner, it's when I want to use drugs. So should they divorce? No. So, they come in to learn new ways of living outside drugs of abuse. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's the same point I was making. That is dealing with anger with other skills, just like the point I'm making about girlfriend and so on. We're talking about developing other skills to manage the situation other than resorting to regular practice. So I think we're making the same point.
Yes. Thank you. So at this point, I'll hand over to the administrator. Jessica, please take over.
All right, thanks, Moses. So I do have one announcement from Kim. So since today is the last session for UTC 4, she has loaded the post-test evaluation and the trainer manual for the section loaded into the online course, the LMS. And she would also like to remind everyone that there is a checkbox that you have to click when you've completed the post-test and the evaluation so that you'll be able to access the trainer manual. And that's all I have. If Beatrice or Moses has any more announcements.
No, mine is just to thank them for participating actively and for also carrying out their assignments. But I urge you to actually go back, study the resource pages. There's so much information condensed there for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses. Once again, I join Moses in thanking you. And so I want to make an announcement about UTC 5. Like I did say, it's a heavy curriculum. It is going to take us 7 days. It is a skill-based course. It is called assessment and treatment planning. So we're going to be practicing to use some tools of screening, the assist. We're going to be practicing to use one tool of assessment called ASI, and we're going to be practicing how to come up with client-centered treatment plans. And therefore, it's going to be an intensive course. We are going to arrange with Kim to share with each of you a copy of the the assessment tools or the screening tools as well, so that we can actually work with you, because this is a skill-based course. So we're going to hopefully together, this is how we propose to do it. If we are working on the assist, for example, which is a screening tool, each of you will have a copy of it. And as we take you through, each of you will be scoring. You will assume you're the client. So you're going to be scoring that tool yourself. And so that at the end of it, if we want to score the tool, you can have an idea. So you will assume you're a, so in the next session, you're going to be assuming you're a client and a learner, but a client. So when we start practicing the tools, you're going to be the client. You're going to be the one filling those points to practice the tool for both the assist and the ASI. And I guess that that shall be done within the course of tomorrow. Kim is going to be sharing those tools in readiness for our class, which is going to be beginning on Friday. Tomorrow is Thursday, so we all take a break. We need it. Then we begin on Friday, day 1. So if we run for 7 days, we will have a break on Sunday, and we shall end on a Friday. And that means we will take the well-deserved 2 days break of Saturday and Sunday when we are done with UTC 5, which I do know some of you had requested. So thank you once again for pulling it this far. It's been a journey. You have been a very good class. We are very pleased with you as trainers, and we pray that you continue with the same spirit. And thank you, Jessica, and thank you to Kim in absentia. And thank you to my team members. And I should also share that we are hoping that Dr. Morekwe is out of hospital and may be able to join us for UTC 5, but not to begin teaching yet, but to sit in, just to start getting back. And hopefully from UTC 6 upwards, she'll be able to join back in teaching. So continue praying for her and wishing her good and quick recovery. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.